I watch little podcasts on YouTube. You do now. I don't watch them too intently, but I watch little bits here and there, like a few minutes of each one, just because, I was hoping to jump in on the game, and I don't want to know too much. It's like a book. You just don't want to read too much, It's
Oh, yeah. Well, the game has changed a lot. It's actually safe to start, if somebody wants to start at the very beginning and start going through, because you're never going to catch up.
No.
Never.
No.
I mean, not unless the game stops running for a couple of years, then you'll have a chance. But yeah, you're never going to even get close to where everything's at. But I don't really repeat stuff as much as I used to. So.
Oh, that kicks me off here. I took some notes here that I knew we were going to be talking. And I really wanted to tell you thank you for all of those years of GMing us at the Swamp House and prior to that, because I was never a GM back then, so I didn't appreciate the amount of work and money that went into it. And I just want to say thanks, because now that I've been a GM for years and accumulated things, just the amount of money and photocopies, oh my gosh.
It's and all the books and stuff like that, yeah. But mostly it's the time. It's a lot of fucking time.
It is. I just want to tell you, I really appreciate it now that I could reflect back on it, because I didn't understand it then. You know what I mean?
So you've been mostly GMing your kids, or do you have a group of adults also, or what's up?
So over the years, let's just forget everything like 5 years and back. That's just like useless. So it's been my kids, my wife, but also the neighbors. Yeah, I've got a few topics to talk about. Do you mind if I hit some of my topics, and then we could kind of jump back and forth?
Yeah, I like it.
Between social and... Okay. So some of this is relating to what I've seen you posting and or running and things along that nature here. I like the fact of you post on there like everybody's a human, everybody's generally good, plays a hero.
If they're an anti-hero, then they're you remember during the game Spades when you step on your partner? You know what I mean by that term now? If you're playing an anti-hero and you don't step on the other players, that's okay.
Right.
In other words, like one of the players named Yana, her character is an evil chick. Right? She is an evil chick. She was like skinning humans and leaving the bodies in the basement of the PC's house. And then the other PCs who from a different group, because there'd be several different groups that go into this house at different times, they would find them and bitch about having to clean them up and maybe taking a little bit of sandy loss because skinned humans and shit.
Sure.
And she thought that was hysterical, and that's a way of being mean to the RPCs without doing things like, I'm going to plant a block of C4 and blow their ass up when they go in the room. That would be unacceptable, but mildly fucking with them. Like she left a big spear or harpoon or something impaled in one of the PC's walls with a note. And like a vaguely threatening kind of evil note. And he was like, God damn it. She's going to deny that she did this, but I know it was her, so that's okay, because that's the mild, I think it's to the level that you're fucking with the RPCs. If it's more of the fun kind of like tension a little bit, like it's a difference between playing the rag game with a dog where you're both pulling on the rag versus killing the dog or shooting the dog or ripping the dog's leg off. One is acceptable, one is unacceptable.
And that brings me back to some thoughts I was having earlier before we got on, is this is where I think I'm trying to figure it out, what your secret formula is here. Because I feel like you bring out some of the best qualities in players that I have ever seen. And I'm going to use some examples here if I could.
Yeah, I was like...
It's okay, hang on. So, things like epic characters, and I'm going to refer back to some of our past, back to the Swamp House. Chaldees and the Blue Mage. One was desert, one was water. They had a rivalry.
Yes.
Right? And they both played very well. They played to their rivalry, but nobody died. Maximilian the evil vampire versus the entire party. they couldn't take them, but he just chose to play with them,
Yeah.
and just things like that. There's been a lot of nice rivalries amongst players with no bloodshed. So I agree with that, and you've always had that. But what I mean by what your secret formula is, I can't figure out is, I don't know if it's your storytelling ability, but every player that I've seen, I feel like we had a very sweet spot at the Swamp House back in the day. I have not seen players and GM interaction like that since.
Really?
Really, and it could just be my pool of players. Most of them are green. So, some examples would be is, you would tell stories about groups even before I played with you, like Cain Verastus, blah, 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 rise. And, he would just convince players just to stand up and get mowed down by machine guns, or, just by dramatic speeches and things like that.
Well, if you remember back at the Swamp House when we first got like Jason,
Yes.
TJ, and all those guys are green as fuck.
Yes.
I don't know if they'd gamed before or how much they'd gamed, or it was like the kids group, and they were like
exactly
15, 16 when they joined us, and we were like in our 30s or some shit.
Yeah, late 20s, yeah.
Yeah, oh, to be young again. But I mean, so are you saying, what do I do that brings out the good players? Or
yes. Here's partially here. I was still going to go on a little bit here, and not to run on, but remember, like even Chris and I, we had the note cards, the highlighters, the books, the catalogs of notes, the circling, the starring, and everything like that. I've run Cthulhu type adventures for other players, and even fantasy things like that. I'll make handouts, letters, photocopies, amulets, all this stuff, right?
Right. And they go, meh.
Crickets. To the point where it got to be like, they're like, I cast my Cure Light Wounds. I'm like, what's your god's name? I don't know. Nothing happens. Next round. It's like,
I don't know my god's name.
It got that bad where I was like, I had to challenge these people. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, I just feel like, I don't know, have you encountered, do you feel like there's been other groups since then that you've raised up, or players to that, I'm not saying caliber that we had, but just, it was a machine. It was a well-oiled machine, I felt like back then.
Well, I think that that is super nice of you to say, but that's also through the nostalgia lens a bit, because if you remember, we had a lot of people that came in, hung out for a few sessions, and that was the last we ever saw of them because they just didn't fit, or other shit was going on with them, or lights exploded and rained hot glass down on them, or whatever horrible shit was going on. But I think that with the game that I run, if somebody isn't if they're not clever, they're not going to have a good time. Because I have had kind of dim players before, and it grinds to a halt. There's some chart that somebody had where it's like the complexity is on one axis, and the intelligence is on the other. And so if it's a complex but they're intelligent, then you can hit the flow thing.
Right.
But otherwise, you get like apathy. Like if the players are really smart and the world is really simple, then they're just kind of like, yeah, we go and break it and we win because we're a lot smarter in the world. Or if the world's really hard and they're kind of not that clever, then they get frustrated.
Right.
So I think in my mind, though, what I always try to do with the worlds, to answer your question, is I try to make the worlds the kind of cool place that people are like, I wish I could go visit there, or I wish I could hang out there, or I wish I could do some of this stuff, because in a lot of games I've seen, the people try to make these really cool characters, and then the world is just boring as fuck. And it's like, okay, so you're the coolest guy in a shit world. Yeah,
Right.
who the fuck cares? At this point, you're just like, I wait for my turn in combat because at least I'm going to try to get my murder hard on going, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But if it's a cool world and you're like, I want to do cool things in this cool world and I want to build up my my abilities and stuff so that I can do more cool things in the cool world. And oh, look, now that more money, more problems type thing, But with powers, it's like now I'm challenging this other stuff. But you remember the warehouse conundrum?
What, with the ninja guards?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
See.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that ties into my theory on like why levels suck.
Yes.
But for people listening who don't know the warehouse story, in a level-based game, if the PCs need to break into a warehouse to get something and they're low level, the warehouse is guarded by shitty rent-a-cops. If they're mid-level, the rent-a-cops now have a ex-Vietnam Green Beret that lead the shitty rent-a-cops. And if they're high level, the warehouse is guarded by ninjas. So, and I don't remember which of the players said, what's the point of us going up in levels because the guards are always up? It may have even been you. I don't know.
I think we had a discussion like that before.
Right. But now what happens is in the worlds, there may be, like, I've had the players literally attacked by ninjas before because the bad guy was like, I can afford 10 ninjas. I have contacts with 10 ninjas. 10 ninjas got sent out. No ninjas came back. And the guy was like, that didn't work. Maybe I should put my money into shittier troops and buy them in bulk because obviously the expertise guys didn't work. But so they may have to break into something guarded by ninjas, but there's a lot of places that are guarded by rent-a-cops where the PCs can just fucking basically float through there. And they're like, all of my building up of my stealth and clever skills is paying off big time. I'm just fucking doing this. But the problems are not necessarily in getting in the warehouse and getting the stuff. And then it becomes a different kind of problem of, okay, I've gotten the nifty thing from the warehouse. I've gotten the MacGuffin from the warehouse. What do I want to do with it? Now the PCs, because their skills are just crushing it, they've got to make choices that matter. It's like, do I want to give it to the guy I'm supposed to give it to, or do I want to keep it, or do I want to try to get rid of it, or maybe if it goes to this guy, he's going to use it to do some big evil shit that I'm just going to have to go and clean up later, or whatever. Right. So now I try to move them into a whole different realm of like what to do about shit.
Yeah, and that was an important lesson that you actually taught me, and I agree with all of that. It was in one of the first campaigns you ran for me. It was Onyx of Ares. He was a knight, and he traveled to the south, and he found like a sunken ship, and he looted it, and it had a bunch of like silverware, china, all fine things, because he just got his keep. He was all excited, so I haul it all back, and then a few months later, after playing, all of a sudden the lord who lost the ship came looking for his stuff. Repercussions. You taught me a lot about that. So, that's just something I reflect on still after all these years is, so the PCs want to go ahead and do something. Go ahead and rob that warehouse. It might not have been the guards that are going to get revenge. It might not be the owner of the property, but who owned the warehouse or who owned that other thing in the warehouse that happened to disappear the same night, So.
I don't know. I think that all comes back to making it an interesting world because a lot of games and stuff that I've seen, they pretty much got like to the we're playing D&D and we're going to draw out the dungeon as we go and use our carefully painted miniatures, and then there's this fight. And essentially, I don't view that as role-playing games. I view that as wargaming with role-playing elements.
Correct.
Which is fine if you're into that, but that's not what I'm into. I don't think that's that interesting. It's a personal power trip. It's like my character's penis has grown another couple inches. Ha ha.
Yeah, unless it's on the to hit chart, then you
Yeah,
roll low.
yeah.
Now that brings me to something else here that I was looking at, or just had a thought on, is introduction of new characters into the mix, the end of their career, their death, and like the whole epic character story arc.
Well,
I
that's a
know
lot of different questions all at once.
there's a lot kind of just balled up there, but that's where it kind of just flows to. So I'm going to start a new character. I'm going to be introduced to the party. I just get dropped in. You have it listed that, hey, I know these guys are my pals. Hey, pal.
Yeah. As far as this campaign goes, not in general.
In whichever way you want to take it.
To go in just as far as this campaign goes, I think honestly the way I set up this campaign in particular is one of the few clever things I've done so far. It's the campaign, because a lot of people, it's like, I'm going to meet up with my group between this time and this time every other or Friday or once a month on this Friday or whatever. I knew that I wasn't going to be doing that shit.
Right.
I game a lot more than that. That little gaming is totally unacceptable to me. When you're gaming less than once a week, to me, it doesn't feel like gaming. It feels like a get together with friends with gaming interludes, which some people are into. Fine for them, but not for me. So I made it so in this campaign, you instinctively know that they're your buddies. And it's kind of like I always describe it as, like when you go to a party and you know that you know somebody, and you're like, I know that guy, and I was getting on well with him. We were having some laughs. Can't remember his fucking name. But I liked him. I remember that, but I can't remember his fucking name. So until you introduce your characters and stuff. And within the game, and I'm not going to reveal any of the whys and wherefores, that's something that you could literally get an entire session-long briefing by other players as to what they think is going on and why they think it is. And they may or may not be correct, or there may or may not be several different reasons why all this shit's going on.
Right.
But because of that, that allows me to just drop in anybody, and boom, they're in. The other people are like, okay, we know that you're probably okay, because nobody that's been our friend has fucked us ever, because I don't do PvP. Right. And so you at least start with that bridge, and then when the party switches, because you may play with one of the same people or none of the same people in various sessions as you go through the months of gaming and such, but it works. For this kind of game and this kind of group and stuff, it works because I'm running a combination of a sandbox and a one-shots mods and stuff, but all with the same characters, which is something that not a lot of people do.
I've noticed that. We could get back to the overall story arcs in a little bit here, but I've noticed the one-shots, like killing a Kraken. That was just one of the videos I saw, and I thought that was pretty neat. That it was just, kind of like the old school, go to the tavern, find the flyer on the, wall, and go kill a Kraken,
Well, in the biggest and more of this stuff, because I also took a bunch of notes, because Jason was like, watch this video. And I was like, oh, I know the guy who made the video, because he's like, you do? And I was like, I lived with him for 2 or 3 months in South Africa. And he's like, what? And I put up a picture of me and the guy together. Yeah. He's like, it's like, surprise. But yeah, and now he's become a famous YouTuber. I had no idea when I was there.
Right.
Any of this shit. Anyway, but the biggest problem in my mind with the open world thing is most people are not good with it. People are not used to it. They're used to go to the bar, pull the flyer off the wall, or have the crazy guy in the corner. They're always in a fucking corner lurking there.
Yes.
Which, as we found out from Nero, that doesn't work, because I remember walking into a tavern and each corner was occupied by somebody trying to look more mysterious than the other guys. Everybody just ignored their dumbasses, sat around, and they were like, "But I'm acting mysterious. This is supposed to work." And everybody's like, "Drinks." Anyway, so some people want to be given missions. Other people are wanting to go look for missions. The hard thing for going to look for the missions is you have to be good enough to feel out the GM to be like, maybe I could go to the north. And if GM's like, you could go to the north, they should be like, or the south. And GM goes, the south, you say. You have to be able to feel out the GM. It's like, which direction does he have shit actually prepared for? And which shit is just facades to make the world look like it's got stuff going on. And it's like, well, I think we'll go check out the south now, but the north soon. And the GM goes, okay, prep the north. I got to get the north ready or whatever. I mean, hopefully more specific than the north, because, but I got to go check out this shipwreck, for example. And so GM's like, okay, makes notes, prep shipwreck.
And I agree with that. That was a skill. I don't know where I learned it, but yes, it's a dance, between the players and the GMs. And, you have to be a good enough player to respect the GM, and the GM has to be like, all right, willing to put that work into it if the player's willing to go that direction, at another time, and it works. It works if you have that communication,
Well, one of the things that I tried to do in this campaign is I always want to have stuff going on in the background that has nothing to do with the players and all that shit. I'm not quite good enough to keep that going, where it's like, you're hearing the news, that you're not going to go after it, because that's one of the big dangers. Is if I'm like, new troubles have broken off in Kurdistan, I don't want the players going, we need to get on a plane and go to Kurdistan. Like Jim's like, but they're not, this is just background news. And the players like, I think we should hop out of the plane, firing wildly as we parachute in. Now you got a whole different problem as a GM, right?
Oh yeah.
But so what I try to do is I'll set up some stuff like in the fantasy world that I made. I set up various things. Like one was a big ice tower, and if the players didn't go there, then certain things will happen in the future. Not a lot, but if they did, even if they didn't go there, shit would happen eventually. If they did go there, then other shit happened because they went there. Then there was a series of events, and the players got very, very frustrated, because it's like, we kind of fucked up by doing this thing here. And I'm like, God damn it. I thought that was treasure, and now it's come and fucked us in the ass. I'm very unhappy about this, so I'll blame the other players, or blame somebody else.
Right.
Cool. So I tried to make it where there's shit going on, but also then in that same zone, they had some people who were like, oh, thank God you're here, because we need stuff done. To the point where it became a joke, where I had people chasing after the PCs as they're running through the streets of town going, find my pigs, and they were like, fuck off, we're doing something else.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. And just getting back to that, do you ever think that there's a good time for a character to end their cycle, if you will? Yeah. And no, just think, keep going.
A lot of
earn until you drop.
Do. Yeah, a lot of people do, but I've never seen it as, excuse me. I've never seen it as particularly useful to stop playing a character. Now, if the player wants to, he's like, this guy, I need to retire him or whatever. That's up to the player. But generally speaking, people don't game enough to really justify that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because like, who's a good example? Pete or Chris, you know who Chris is. So Chris's
Yeah.
character, one of the neat things about this campaign is, due to the nature of the campaign, which I won't discuss because it's mysterious, and my campaign is a lot like Lost, the TV show, except shit will make sense at the end, unlike Lost, the TV show, which pissed off all the viewers. They were livid. And so Chris is playing Doc Fulton, back from the dead and stuff, and he's played him pretty consistently for 4 seasons, which is like 2 years. There's still all kinds of shit going on. I think if in a lot of people's campaigns, they're like, you need to make a detailed backstory and we'll explore all that stuff. I don't do any of that. Because I've discovered that players are generally shit at backstories.
Yeah.
You and I have read hundreds of different backstories. Because in Nero and stuff, everybody's parents were killed by something that has a tremendous amount of treasure waiting for that player to go and kill those relatively minor creatures and collect up that big booty. It's I always looked at it as what's gone on before in the past, even though a lot of people are like, I wouldn't plan a campaign that I wasn't invested in. Well, you get invested as you play.
Exactly.
You get it. You make friends of different NPCs and the PCs as you play through the campaign. You get invested. You get all these different plot threads that begin to attach themselves to the characters that are going along. Because in my campaign, when the first few sessions, if you remember, they're pretty fucking white milk and white toast. Pretty mayonnaise. And then more and more layers of shit start getting sprinkled on top until finally, like the campaign you'll be coming into now, it's got depth. It's got all kinds of past shit that's been going on, and it's got like 1,000 hours played time, you know. So you're going to be wading into a morass of interesting shit, as opposed to if you're in the first couple of sessions, it's like, so what is there to do here?
Well, that was something that we talked about years ago, was you'd even tell new players this, even for every new campaign, give it 3 sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Minimum, because new characters, new players, everything has to gel. Nothing comes to fruition for the first 3 sessions, even if they're 8, 10, 12-hour sessions. Just after the 4th one always seemed to be the golden one where, you're on the roll.
Oh, yeah. And so I think that getting back to your point of when is a good time to stop playing, it's like I think when you have nothing left to do is when the GM has no thoughts of your character. If you can't inspire the GM to come up with some interesting shit for your character, then that might be a good time to retire that character. But otherwise, there's always stuff going on, and so to me, I don't. Unless your character sucks, it's not a good time to retire.
Yeah, I was just curious, obviously, like you said, you've got your campaign going on now for like 1,000 hours plus played, and it's got a lot of depth. A lot of PCs have been in and out of this campaign, so I guess it doesn't apply. Is it I'm not saying do you have a set time, or is it when the players figure out the big picture, but is it going to be time to start a new series? Like a whole new cut and dry day one?
That's a good question. With this campaign, there would never be a good reason to do that because of the way I have it set up. Like as a guest GM, I had said, if you ever want to run something, all you have to do is you can construct the kind of world you want. And if you say, okay, in my world, The PCs are intelligent dolphins, as is all the other guys. And so you're going to get the dolphin belts, and you each get like a missile that can fire. This makes sense in my campaign. You want to come up with some weird shit, you can do it. You're still the only thing is you're still using the same rule set, because it's pain in the ass to learn new rule sets and rewrite characters and all that bullshit. But if you want to have the intelligent dolphin world, just to go on some weird extreme, you can do that. And it works. So for this, there's no real good time to start a new campaign, because what else is there to run? If I wanted to run a cowboy world, nothing but cowboys, I can do that now. I don't.
No. I think it's great. I think it's brilliant. I think you came up with a really brilliant concept, and we could talk about that in a little bit. And well, no, I do. I agree. I think it's awesome.
From a lot of people, though, if I can understand them going, we've been playing cowboys for a long goddamn time, and we all want to play hyper intelligent dolphins. And so, because they don't have this kind of episodic world setup, they would need to stop playing one in order to play another. Or some people are not rules monogamous. They want to say, let's try this other system.
Yeah.
And for me, I just made the system, and I mean, you were there at the beginning of it, so now that system has been in development for 15, 20 years, something like that.
And I see it. Yeah, I can see it. And that's another thing that I think is really funny, is how we, even though we haven't talked in all these years, our development of the game system has actually paralleled. I still use cards. I don't use Tor cards, but no cards. And I just write out all different kinds of advantages, disadvantages, random scenarios, just stuff even dating back and referencing to other campaigns. And no, I just thought it was interesting, how you still use the, heroes first, villains second. I like that element, but for me, I had poor players. Or let me rephrase that. I had very inexperienced players. So it was always, players were always first, unless it was a dramatic combat or an ambush was set up. Because I had to give all of the players time to figure out, what are we going to do? And who goes first and who's attacking? It's like, come on.
I gotta say that as far as combats go, I mean, the Swamp House group and stuff did a lot of good combats and stuff, but they were not the scariest group for the combats I'd ever GM'd. The scariest group was back when I was in the military, and I was GMing a pretty large, like 10 players group or whatever.
Was this Rollmaster?
Yeah. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was that they would sit there and they'd plan out amazing tactical shit. And so, because we were using battle maps and shit, this is back in my early development days. And so, claymores would go off, and then the NPCs would run over here, and the players had already set up a bunch of different little chits, and some of them were like, nothing is here, we didn't do it because they had a certain amount of time set, and it's like they run over to claymores, and they go, and so I'd be like, oh, they're gonna run over here, spike trapped, so by the time they got to the players, they were happy to just die, the players would be like, just gun down the last couple of stragglers and we're good. And it's like, Jesus, the interlocking fields of fire, all this kind of military stuff, violence in action, and it was absolutely terrifying to be an NPC on the wrong side of those guys. So
and again, that goes to show just some of the versatility you even had. Is like you said, you were in the military, your players were military, they thought tactically, and the game system allowed that to happen. As you know, some of the game systems we played in, even the Torgs and the Ambers and the other diceless systems and just all this other stuff didn't warrant that. It wasn't in the rule set. So that's, I think, why, we both developed more of the theater of the mind, which is like a new term, but,
Well, I don't know if you're aware of it, but between the Swamp House days and the current campaign, for like a year or more, I had run something that was forensics, police procedural mixed with a little bit of Cthulhu campaign.
Okay.
And the players actually learned how to correctly process crime scenes and shit like that, because I went and trained with the cops for like
Right.
12 weeks to learn how to do this. And then through NPCs taught the players. And so they picked up real life skills of how to do that stuff. I mean, to varying degrees. Some people are like, I know I suck at this. I'm going to grab the camera and begin taking pictures of her. And that was the easy job. You know, it's
Right.
just take photos of everything. It's digital, fuck it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I like when players are able to learn real life skills through the game.
Yeah, I agree. And to credit you, hang on one second here. This is mandatory reading that nobody reads.
I recognize that book. Oh yeah, that is not a bad book. It's a good primer. But yeah, nobody fucking reads that because it's like, this looks hard and there's not enough pictures.
No, I give it to all my new players. Here, just flip through this. Just take a look. You know, it's like, all right, give me that back. You know, I've had that too long to have it destroyed by a Slurpee. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. What else you got?
Yeah. Sorry if I'm beating up to. Let's see. What do I got here? A team, B team. So as an example, I see myself coming in. Sundays are going to be my day. You know, as long as you'll have me, I'm happy to play on Sundays. You know, we'll be playing right now in this time period, and nobody's awake, so it's perfect for me. So, you know, I don't mind being a B team player. So, is there? Hang on, let me rephrase this. So, as an example, you've got I'll call them the A team. You got your guys who play on your Wednesday, Thursdays, or your Thursday, Fridays. You know, your Russ, your Pete's, your Chris's. They seem like they've got those days pretty well locked up. Not as a negative, but there's no way I could play on those days.
Well, it depends. Sometimes people drop out. Sharking is a big deal. You read about sharking?
Yes, I did.
But as far as A team and B team, honestly, it's not so much that. It's when is the player able to play? When did they sign up? And we have enough players now where there is some jostling for positions and stuff.
Okay.
Like there's a married couple and they were very upset because they always like to play together, obviously.
Right.
And there was only like because they were only available on certain days for reasons unknown, Logan, there was only like 3 of those days available in a 3-month period where there was 2 slots on the days they wanted. And I was like, there's other days with the multiple slots. So that's when I also decided to make the potluck initiative. In other words, the people that were doing shit to make the game better. Like we got a guy, Alex, who I call Freddie, because you know we already have an Alex in the game. Alex Kinley. It's a character's name. It's not even a real person.
Right.
But that's already an Alex. So the other guy can't be Alex. It's just confusing. And so he does a lot of the work on he did the very complicated character sheet in Roll20, and he updates all the kinds of stuff. Sheila has become the mistress of the wiki. And then people that GM are also going to be getting first dibs over people that do fuck all except show up to play. So what I'm going to do is, like, next time that I am putting up the schedule, those people all get notified. Anybody that's GM'd or whatever is going to get notified first. And it's like, okay, here's the thing. And it's kind of like the land rush, but everybody is expected to not say, I just want all the day. You know, be generous to the other players. You know, sign up for some of the days and stuff. So you might not always be on Sundays. However, Sunday, if you're playing a lot on Sundays, it doesn't make you B team. It just makes you the Sunday guy. Because if you're playing every Sunday, you might become part of the A team. You may get an occasional guest slot on a Friday or Saturday,
Sure.
but it's.
I didn't even mean B team as a negative. I'm happy to work with your, because I don't know I can't remember all their in-game names, but your Chris, your Russ, your Pete's. If they're like, hey, we couldn't quite finish this up, Ralphie, can you take over? Sure.
I love
I'll
it when players assign each other missions. I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's like, this needs doing if you got time.
Right, that's especially, great. Not to be funny, I'm not an inexperienced player. I have an inexperienced character.
Right.
So therefore, there might be things not worth their time. Maybe I need to go tackle those, security guards, the rent-a-cops.
Right.
And so let me go take care of it.
Well,
I'm good with that.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the funny things that happens also in an open world setting is people do a lot of what I call shopping for things they can't afford to buy. There's a couple of players, I'm not going to name them, but they are notorious for this because whether for dramatic purposes or misinformation, because, whatever, things often look harder than what they really are, or they look as hard as they are if you go in stupidly or don't have a plan or whatever. Because I'll make a simple warehouse, because when you're looking at like real life breaking into a warehouse, you get that kind of daunting feeling. It's like, how am I going to do all this shit,
Yeah.
And so I'll build on that a little bit, and I'll try to make them a little bit nervous. So they go around, they look at like 4 or 5 missions and go, these all look hard. Is there anything simpler? And I'm like, no. You're just fucking wildly incompetent. Just pick one.
That reminds me of just to reminisce here for 1 second. It was in the Suede campaign, kind of in the peak, and it's when one of our newer players came on board, and I said, I've got something I need you to take care of. I need you to go convince this guy, give him like the photograph, his name, his address. You need to convince him he's a crane operator. He needs to have the crane over this street at this time. Okay. And he goes, I ring the buzzer. Nobody answers. I try the door. It's locked.
Yes.
I go back.
Yeah. Oh, I remember how frustrated you got at that. It's like, did you check the back door? Like,
yeah.
No.
Did you try the window? Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's like hiding under his table going, and he didn't.
Nope.
He didn't. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think players like that don't generally do as well in my game, or they may not even stick around, because there's a lot of people that want you go into a 30 by 30 room, and there's these exits, and here's your miniature, and look how pretty it's painted, and I'm going to put down, because I painted up some really cool spider miniatures, so I'm going to put those down. Whoa. Yeah, there's some players that's pretty much the level that they're at, and they don't want to go past that, or maybe they can't. I like the players that are like, I'm going to fucking buzz other people's buzzers, and because there's always the one guy who's too lazy to even ask who it is.
Yes.
He'll just buzz you in.
Oh, it's that neighbor of mine who forgot his keys again,
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, is Fred there? Somebody's named Fred.
Yeah. And or even look at the names on the buzzers. Yeah, this is Thomas and 3B. I forgot my keys.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. Just
I agree. But for a lot of people, that kind of I like devious players. I like sneaky players. I like players that think sideways at a problem. And because a lot of players, especially newer ones that aren't used to my GMing style, they come in and they're pretty much thinking, okay, can I kick his ass? The answer might be no, or yes, but you're going to lose all your hero points doing it. and it's going to be a really rough fight, and it's not going to be one that, even if you win, you're not going to get to where you're trying to go.
Right.
As opposed to if you're just okay, you kill him, he doesn't give up the name of the person you needed because he didn't know that's what you wanted. You just wanted to kick his ass, and so now he's dead, and you don't have the name you needed. It's
exactly.
Like,
oh yeah, no.
What you gonna do now?
So
yeah, I'm gonna go back to Ralph and tell him I couldn't find out the guy's name. I guess Ralph's like, God damn it, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, so anyways, that's where I was going with the whole B team thing. Is I'm looking forward to doing that, because I recognize things within the campaign world, but I don't know the campaign world.
Right.
And so I'm not going under any assumptions or presumptions, or I'm a new character. And so that's why I don't mind being the B team. And I'm just letting you know that also, to even throw that out to the, I'm not even calling them A team, B team, but you're more consistent players that play more times per week,
Well, that's one of the cool things about the setup that I've gotten, that I always tell people that aren't experienced with this kind of setup, is try to if your schedule allows, try to sign up for a Thursday or Wednesday or wherever now and then, because you'll play with entirely different people, and then not only do you get to meet new people, which I think is a huge bonus. I like that kind of campaign where it's like you're not joining a group of 3 or 4 other people, you're joining a group of 20 something people.
Right.
And plus you'll get information that if you're just playing with like the same couple of people, then you're kind of in a little bubble. But as soon as they pop out of that and they're like, oh, I'm with these other guys here, and it's like, oh yeah, there's blah blah, and they'll tell it, and it's like, where the fuck was this information? The other guys didn't know it, and you go tell the other guys, and they're like, I didn't think it was important. You're like, that's the main thing.
Exactly.
So
you got to write it down, you got to circle it, you got to put a star next to it, and
there's different kinds of players that I have gotten this campaign. Some people are like the solvers, like Chris is a solver, a guy named Pete from Australia who plays, and he plays at some stupid crazy times. He starts his gaming at like close to midnight and stops at like 5 or 6 a.m., some shit like that. That's pretty massive. I think he's my only Australian player.
I enjoy watching him and Russ. I enjoy watching their videos. I usually try to skip around and watch them play. I like their styles.
Yes, but they're what I call the solvers, and then I've got some people like Matt, Yana, Russ to some extent, are what I call scene makers. They want to make the cool scenes. They're not really so much there to figure shit out as to like, I'm gonna have a good time and do this cool thing and make a cool scene and shit, stuff like. Some people do both. Like Chris likes to make cool scene, but he also wants to solve shit.
Exactly, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is I'm looking forward to being a regular player, at least once a week or as often as I can. That's why I even chimed in. I'm like, you know what? There's been some empty slots on your list now for like 2-3 months that I've been on the boards. And you know what? I've got tons of vacation time. I could just take a couple hours off in the beginning of my work day. I could jump in. I could play for a solid 5 hours. As long as you realize, hey, Ralph has to go, after 5 hours of play, he's got to go to work.
Well, what I do with people that have that, they're like, I got a hard stop at 7 p.m. your time in the UK. I'm like, cool, but realize that if shit's still going on, the other players may keep going. But due to the nature of the campaign, your character literally disappears, and it makes sense within the campaign. And so unlike a regular campaign where it's like, well, Ralph had to go, but we're in the dungeon of nasty. His guy's still with us. We'll send him in the rooms first to look for traps, I guess. I don't have any of that bullshit.
No stuffing him in the bag of holding, right? He just goes walk away. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I just voiced it to you. I'm like, hey, you know what? If nobody's gonna play these, I'd like to try a couple different groups, different players, just to say hi.
Yeah, the slots that haven't been signed up for and stuff, you know, I understand after you've done 1 or 2 games,
I'm good with that.
then yeah, sign up for more shit because
I completely agree with that. Yep.
got to make sure that we still got the old magic and shit, you know,
Oh,
and
I'm
that
sure we'll
Ralph
have magic.
hasn't gone completely insane.
No.
Speaking of magic, I also changed the magic system. Now
Yes.
it's harder because the players, like if somebody's going to cast a spell, if I go, what's the whatever, and ask a question about it, if the player can't instantly answer me, if they go, hold on, let me look, the spell fucking doesn't work. I
Same
don't have
thing with,
time to look shit up.
you always had that rule. How many
Okay.
bullets are in your gun?
Right,
Oh. How
right.
many
Yeah.
food rations do you have? Oh.
Yeah. You're clearly out. Yeah, that's great. But the I've come up with something new for the spells that I've been messing with now for like a year, and so far it's working great. Where there's different tiers of spells, and getting the tier 1 super easy. All you gotta do is say, "Hey, do you know any spells?" And the air players will be like, "Yes," and then they will fail their teaching roll. Eventually, when they do make their teaching roll, most of them suck at teaching, and they make their spell roll for the tier 1 spell, then you learn it at your learn skill. Okay? Learn
Okay.
skill. The new stats, super easy,
Yes.
beautiful things, no dump stats. And so then the only way for you to get the level 2 spell or tier 2 spell is to crit your tier 1 spell. And then it begins to make a tree. And so it's like, wow, I'm gonna, have to work up the spell, and that also keeps the spells down in their tiers. Um, but there is a caveat. If somebody says, "Hey, you don't have spells of this kind," and I go, "No, would you like to make some?" And then if
Yes.
they make them, then like if somebody's to make an entire spell tree, they start off with all the spells at their learn skill. So they're not going to be super good at it. But that's my way of saying, hey, if you make it, then you make it great.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty neat because you opened that up about like magic items and, hey, throw out some ideas for magic items.
All right. Well, those are ones that I'm going to that I've placed in the game for sale and stuff for different things. There's I'm still waiting for somebody to figure out something that will basically provide them with infinite money, but nobody's figured it out yet. And when they do, I expect to hear a lot of beating of heads on tables going, I can't believe that worked. Why didn't anybody come up with it? I'm so angry. And I'll be like, because honestly, even infinite money would not destroy this campaign.
Right.
It's you don't have to worry about money because you've figured out the big thing of, and then the players will be like, and they still got other problems.
Yes. No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, that's all I really had, that I wanted to throw your way that I picked up on, and